You wrote an article recently in Retail Insider around some concerns around for the grocers community around
Yes,
demographic changes. It kind of surprised me a little bit at the headline because I was thinking, my God, they've had the tailwind of all tailwinds with the pandemic and the shift.
that's
And I
right.
guess the multi-billion-dollar question is how consumers change their behaviors and what sticks and what does not. So what's your perspective? What's your feeling around demographic shifts and grocers?
Well, I don't know if you've actually looked at some recent data coming from StatsCan about our population, but things aren't looking good.
Hmm.
I mean, grocers. When you look at the grocery industry in Canada, the sector heavily relies on demographic growth to support
Sure.
their own growth strategy. That's if you have more
Yep.
mouths to feed, it's easier to actually achieve a 2-3% a growth every single year. But because of COVID, we're actually seeing fewer immigrants. We were
Right.
short on our target last year. We're likely going to be short again this year in 2021. And because our birth rate is lower than 2.1, which would be the rate that would allow
Replenish.
us
Yeah. Replenish the
to
population.
replace
Yeah.
ourselves, I guess. Uh, right now, the birth rate in Canada is at about 1.71. Now, according to the UN, and based on some of the analysis that they've conducted for each and every industrialized countries, Canada's birth rate could drop by 4% to 1.51 by 2026.
Hmm.
And the rationale is makes sense to me when you think about what has happened with COVID and the younger generations. I mean, basically COVID will force a lot of younger folks to wait and start to they had to wait and to start their careers. So they're gonna have to focus on their careers, launch their careers before settling down and start a family, which makes total sense. If you talk to any recent university graduates, they'll tell you exactly that. Well, I'm not going to settle down now. I'm a few years behind
Yeah.
now, so I need to
Need a bit
catch
of
up.
runway. Yeah. Need a bit of runway. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I totally get it. And that's going to probably cost, and which is why we believe that our birth rate will go down. And you saw already because of COVID, our birth rate has gone down already. And
Yeah.
so I'm a bit concerned about that because I suspect that the cane population won't will continue to grow, but not as fast as it used to. Are you surprised by that?
I don't know if I'm surprised. I think I'm more sanguine because I think there's a public policy superpower that is lying in wait to change things. So first of all, I did get into this discussion with someone around birth rates and marriage
Right.
rates during COVID, and I'm like,
Yes.
of course, it's not the best time during the global pandemic to get married or to have children.
That's
However, I
right.
think there'll be pent up demand for both. I mean, listen, as a young person, it's hard to meet people
So
during a
you're
pandemic.
expecting a baby boom like in the 40s.
I don't know if it's going to be like the 40s. People were a bit surprised it didn't happen during the COVID era. I wasn't surprised at all because who wants to be in a hospital? Because having children, as you know, means trips to the hospital, both before they're born and
I got to
after.
tell you, Michael, I heard so many experts 18 months ago telling us, "Oh, there's going to be a pandemic baby boom."
No, I
And I
didn't think so.
wondered I wondered I don't know.
Post
And
pandemic, post pandemic.
post pandemic, perhaps. I'm
I think.
still a little bit skeptical because of the economics of starting a
Uh,
family. I mean, it's pretty darn expensive now.
well, well. Let's talk about this policy superpower. Now, we got an election coming up. Who knows? It'll come up. We've got two things that replenish the population, as you said. Immigration. We got great immigration policies in this country. 300,000, I think, is a total. So that'll resume in the fullness of time. The other one, and I think Quebec has been a leader on this, is how do we help families have children with daycare, right? With
Hmm.
subsidized daycare. So if you talk to the average Canadian family, can there be whatever way it is, whether it's given money to the families or subsidized daycare, if you release the burden of trying to find, like if you live in Toronto, trying to find great daycare, expensive and difficult, right? So it is an
Hmm.
impediment on having children or many children or whatever you may personally want to do. So I think it's a superpower. I think it's, if you want to replenish the domestic population, listen, I'm sounding like a farmer here, replenish the population. Um, if you
Farmer
if you want,
Michael.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I'm more sanguine about it because there's an opportunity there. I mean, there's a financial
I
barrier.
mean, the daycare argument is, I think, it's long overdue. I actually do think that we need universal daycare, but I am from Quebec, and I know that there are some limitations to universal daycare. The challenge is, if you are to set up a program across Canada, great. Make sure everyone has access to it. That's the thing, because
Yeah,
if and I know when I started my career, I we were raising a family, and we didn't have a spot for our son, and so you ended up paying for a system as a taxpayer that you didn't have access to. And so that's really the big challenge. I think universal daycare, absolutely for everyone. I think everyone wins, but we should make sure that everyone has a spot. And if you actually have a very reliable system,
yeah.
then people will have babies, and our population, our birth rate will go up.
Yeah, I think it doesn't have to be either or. Immigration versus domestic growth in the population. I think it can be both with clever policy, well executed. Yeah, listen, we got through the pandemic. Let's
I think
let's
we should start a
you know,
new party, Michael.
I
We should
think so.
start, call let's make Canadians.
Yeah,
Or something like that. Let's have babies.
yeah. Let's have babies party.
Let's increase our population party, or have
Listen,
one item on our platform, and that's it. But
listen. It's one of the best strategies for retailers, right?
some
Retailers need more
environmentalists will say
customers.
the worst thing you can do to the environment is have babies. So we'll have
Well,
our work cut out for us.
well, I think you can have your cake and eat it too. Is my perspective. Just to stay in the food realm.